I was sitting in the waiting room for my doctor's appointment when my phone rang. It was my only daughter, Angela. Her voice sounded strange, almost cold, when she said, "Mom, we're leaving for Europe tomorrow. I've already sold your beach house and your car. We needed the money. Bye." And she just hung up. After 45 years spent raising her and sacrificing for her, she tossed me aside like a useless object. But I took a deep breath and smiled because there was one thing my dear daughter didn't know. My name is Antonia Brooks. I'm 71 years old. Up until that moment, I thought I knew my daughter. I became a widow 6 months ago. My husband, Robert, passed away from a heart attack at breakfast, just like he did every day for 45 years. That morning, he poured me coffee with milk and set out toast. As always, he kissed me on the forehead and said, "Good morning, my love." Those were his last words. Since Robert left, Angela started visiting me more often, or so I thought. She came 3 times a week, helped with the funeral, and accompanied me to the store. She even suggested I see a doctor for a checkup. "Mommy, you need to take care of yourself now that you're alone," she said with that smile I mistook for love. Now I realized it was about convenience. The beach house had been our sanctuary for many years. Robert and I bought it when Angela was 15, after long struggles and sacrifices. We spent every summer there, creating memories and celebrating birthdays and holidays. Angela brought her boyfriends, later her husband Edward. I cooked for everyone, cleaned, and did laundry. It was our family tradition. I never thought she could see it merely as money. And the car, an old Ford pickup, was something Robert cared for like a child. He washed it every Sunday, changed the oil regularly, and always parked it in the same spot under a tree's shade. Angela knew what that car meant to me. It was my last connection to him. When she hung up, I sat still on that uncomfortable green plastic chair, surrounded by other sick people. For the first time in months, I didn't cry. Something strange happened within me. A calmness I hadn't felt since Robert was gone. At that moment, I remembered something I had completely forgotten. 3 days before his death, Robert handed me a manila folder. "Antonia, put this in your dresser drawer. If something happens to me, open it later, but only when you're ready." I placed it in the drawer without much thought. After the funeral, amidst all the grief and errands, I simply forgot about it, but it waited for me at home. The nurse called me into the office. The doctor examined me and said I was in good health for my age, that I just needed to rest more and eat right. I nodded and smiled, but my mind was somewhere else. I thought about that folder, about the coldness in Angela's voice, and how Edward was likely behind it all. He never liked me, always thought of me as a burden. I left the office and slowly headed to the bus stop. I no longer had a car, according to Angela, but while waiting, I couldn't help but smile. There was some poetry in that. My daughter thought she left me with nothing, but she didn't know that Robert, my dear Robert, was always the one who planned ahead. The bus arrived, and I sat by the window. I watched houses, shops, and people rushing by, each with their own tragedies and secrets. I had mine too, and I was going to uncover them. When I got home, I headed straight to my room. I opened the dresser drawer, and there lay the manila folder, exactly where I left it. My hands trembled slightly as I picked it up. I sensed there were several documents inside. Robert had neatly written my name on the front. I sat on the bed where we had slept for many years and took a deep breath. It was getting dark outside, and the house filled with familiar shadows that no longer frightened me. I slowly opened the folder as if unwrapping a birthday present. What I found inside changed everything. Inside were legal documents, deeds, bank certificates, and a handwritten letter from Robert. My eyes filled with tears as I read his familiar handwriting. My dear Antonia, if you're reading this, it means I'm no longer with you. I'm sorry I didn't tell you everything while I was alive, but I wanted to protect you from worry. For many years, I invested our savings in real estate and businesses. We don't just have the beach house. We have 6 other properties, including an apartment building where Angela and Edward live. We also own shares in 3 companies worth more than you can imagine. You're wealthy, my love. You've always been rich, but now it's officially documented. My hands shook as I flipped through the documents. There were deeds for homes in various neighborhoods, an apartment in the city center, a small motel by the beach, and indeed a 20-story building where my daughter lived. Robert had been a quiet owner for the last 10 years, but had put everything in the name of a company I knew nothing about. And according to the documents, I was the sole heir of that company. The papers included bank statements for accounts I'd never heard of, with figures that seemed unreal. Robert had been a bus driver for 40 years, but it turned out he was also a very savvy investor. Every penny saved, every sacrifice we made, he turned it into something more in secret, and I had no idea. In his letter, Robert wrote that he kept this a secret so I wouldn't worry about money, and so Angela wouldn't know our true financial situation. If our daughter Antonia found out we had such resources, her attitude towards us would change. I wanted her to love us for who we are, not for what we have. What irony. Our daughter left us, thinking we had nothing, while in reality, we had everything. That night, I couldn't sleep. I wandered through the house, touching the old furniture and trinkets that Angela always condemned for being outdated. I looked at the family photos on the wall, especially the one where she sat on Robert's lap at 5 years old, laughing. Where did that sweet girl go? When did she become so cold and calculating? Early the next morning, the phone rang. It was Angela again. Her voice sounded different, softer, but I'd learned to be wary of such changes in tone. Mom, how are you? She asked. I wanted to say we'd already transferred the money from the sale of the house and the car. Your share's already in your account. It isn't much, but it'll help you get by for a few months while you search for something smaller. My share? I asked, trying to remain calm. Yes, Mom. We weren't going to leave you with nothing. You got 30%. That's fair, isn't it? We need the money for investments in Europe. Edward's got an incredible business opportunity there. 30% of my own money. How generous. I see, dear. And when are you leaving? I asked. This afternoon. Our things are already packed. We'll be gone for at least 6 months. Maybe longer if business goes well. But don't worry, Mom. When we return, we'll help you find a small apartment, something that suits your needs. Suits my needs, as if she knew what I needed. All right, Angela. Have a good trip. Oh, Mom, I knew you'd understand. You've always been so caring. We love you very much. Then she hung up. I stood there with the phone in my hand. For the first time in months, I laughed. I laughed like I hadn't since Robert left. The situation was so absurd, it felt comical. My daughter robbed me, kicked me out of my own home, and spoke to me with unbearable arrogance, all to fund a European adventure that would likely end in disaster. But more than the money, what troubled me was the ease with which she left me. 45 years of my life dedicated to her, sacrifices, unconditional love, and she erased me from her life in just 2 minutes of conversation. That's what truly hurt. I checked my bank account online. Indeed, they transferred an amount that probably seemed generous to them, but to me, it was a mockery. They sold the beach house for significantly less than its actual value, likely because they needed cash urgently, and sold Robert's truck for a pittance. That day, I watched from the window as Angela and Edward loaded suitcases into a taxi. He carried 2 huge suitcases, while she had a very expensive carry-on. I watched them laugh, kiss, and make plans. They looked like 2 teenagers excited for an adventure. They didn't even glance at my window or say goodbye. When the taxi drove away, I sat in the kitchen with a cup of tea and Robert's documents scattered across the table. I needed to make a decision. I could call a lawyer, reclaim my property, and get back everything they took from me. But something told me there was a better, wiser way to handle this. I called Mr. Peterson, the lawyer who handled Robert's affairs. He was at the funeral, expressed his condolences, and said I could reach out if I needed anything. Well, now I needed him. "Mrs. Brooks, it's nice to hear from you. How are you?" he asked. "I'm fine, Mr. Peterson. I urgently need to meet with you. I found some of Robert's documents that I don't quite understand." "Of course. Come to my office tomorrow morning. I'll be there." That night, for the first time in months, I slept peacefully. I dreamt of Robert. He sat in his favorite chair, reading the newspaper, just like every morning. When he saw me, he smiled and said, "Finally, my love, it's time for you to start standing up for your rights." I woke up with an unusual feeling. It wasn't quite happiness, but it wasn't the sadness I'd felt for so long either. It was something like determination. For the first time since Robert's death, I had a clear goal. I was going to reclaim what was mine, but not in the way Angela expected. In the morning, I dressed with more care than usual. I wore my burgundy dress, which Robert said made me look elegant. I fixed my hair and put on some makeup. And looking in the mirror, I saw a woman I hadn't noticed in a long time. I saw a strong woman. Mr. Peterson's office was in the city center. It was an old but elegant building with marble floors and large windows. He greeted me with a warm smile, but when I showed him the documents, his expression completely changed. "Mrs. Brooks, this is much more than I anticipated. Robert was a very smart man." "I understand that you own these documents, Mr. Peterson. I've already looked through them. Now I need to find out what I can do within the law." Mr. Peterson assured me everything was fine. The documents were authentic, and I was the legal owner of all these assets. He also confirmed what I already suspected. The sale of the beach house was illegal, as Angela had no right to sell it. "We can get the house back immediately, Mrs. Brooks, and initiate legal action against your daughter for fraud." "No, Mr. Peterson, I don't want to sue. I want to handle this differently. I want everything to stay confidential for now." "Can you help me with that?" He looked at me with curiosity, but nodded. "Of course, you're my client. What do you need?" "I need you to discreetly return the beach house. Do whatever's necessary to annul that fraudulent sale and help me regain actual control over all my assets, especially the building where my daughter lives." "I understand. It'll take a few weeks, but it's entirely feasible." "Excellent. And Mr. Peterson, I don't want anyone to know I'm behind all this, at least for now." When I left his office, it felt like I'd awakened from a long sleep. I strolled through the city center, observing the people, buildings, and the life that went on as usual. But for me, everything had changed. I had a plan. The next few weeks became the strangest of my life. Officially, I was a poor widow left by my daughter. But in reality, I was a wealthy woman quietly organizing the return of my assets. Mr. Peterson worked quickly, calling me every few days with updates on the case. I decided to stay in my home for a while. After all, it was mine, even though Angela probably expected me to move into a small room. Every morning, I got up, had breakfast at the same table where Robert and I had spent so many years, and then went for a walk around the neighborhood. Neighbors greeted me with that mix of pity and curiosity they usually showed toward recent widows. One day, while I was watering the flowers in the front yard, Aurora, my neighbor for many years, approached me. "Antonia, dear, is it true that Angela went to Europe and left you alone?" "Yes, Aurora. She went with Edward. They have business plans over there. How are you going to live, dear? We all know Robert didn't leave much money. If only you knew, I thought. Don't worry, Aurora. I'm doing fine. Do you need anything? I can bring some food, help with shopping. You're very kind, but I'm perfectly fine. Aurora looked at me with that expression I knew well. It was the same look I received after the funeral. Sympathy mixed with a slight relief that it wasn't her tragedy. Well, you know where to find me if you need anything. These conversations repeated endlessly. The butcher, the baker, the woman from the corner shop. Everyone spoke to me in that soft tone they used with the unfortunate, and I nodded, smiled, and thanked them for their concern. But inside, part of me enjoyed this game. It felt like living with a double identity. One Wednesday morning, Mr. Peterson called me. Mrs. Brooks, I have good news. I managed to cancel the sale of the beach house. The buyers didn't know the deal was fraudulent, so they got their money back without problems. The house belongs to you again. Great, Mr. Peterson. What about the building where Angela lives? That's a bit more complicated. Technically, you've always been the owner through the company, but we need to make some administrative changes for you to gain direct control. It'll take another 2 weeks. Wonderful. Keep me posted. After I hung up, I sat in the kitchen with a cup of coffee and thought about Angela. She had been in Europe for 3 weeks, and I hadn't heard from her. No calls, no messages, not even a postcard. To her, I ceased to exist the moment she got the money she needed, but I knew that would change soon. I decided to visit the beach house. I took the bus down the coast, following the same route Robert and I had traveled hundreds of times. The house looked just as I remembered, small, painted cream with a porch facing the ocean. The new owners set some potted plants on the steps, but otherwise, everything remained as before. I sat on the curb across from it and stared for an hour. I recalled summer evenings when Angela was little, running on the beach and building sandcastles. Robert grilled fish while I prepared salads in the kitchen. Angela brought friends, then boyfriends, then Edward. All those happy moments reduced to a simple commercial transaction. An elderly gentleman came out of the house and saw me sitting there. He approached with interest. Is everything all right, madam? Yes, thank you. I'm just reminiscing. I knew the previous owners. Yes, I knew them very well. What a pity what happened. We were told the elderly lady was very ill and needed a quick sale. We thought it was a lucky purchase, but it turns out the sale was illegal. We need to return the house. Did you know them personally? No. We did everything through intermediaries, but we were told the daughter was handling everything since the mother couldn't. What a sad situation. If you only knew how truly sad it is, I thought. Well, I'm glad you didn't lose your money. Yes, fortunately, it all worked out. However, now we need to look for another house again. We really like this one. I left feeling heavy-hearted, and it wasn't just about the money. I was saddened by how easily Angela lied about me. She created a story about my illness and used my supposed vulnerability to justify her actions. To her, I was not a person with feelings, but an obstacle to eliminate. That night, I called Mr. Peterson again. Mr. Peterson, I need your help with another issue. I want to get Robert's truck back. That'll be harder, Mrs. Brooks. The truck was registered to you, but your daughter had a power of attorney allowing her to sell it. How is that possible? It seems you signed that power of attorney a few months ago after your husband's death. You don't remember? That was the moment Angela began planning everything. I vaguely remembered signing some documents she brought, assuring me they were necessary for organizing the funeral and distributing the inheritance. I was so overwhelmed by grief that I signed without reading. How naive I had been. I understand, Mr. Peterson. Is there a chance to get the truck back? We can try, but it'll be more complicated. We'll need to prove you signed the power of attorney under pressure or deceit. Let's do it. I want everything that was taken from me back. Over the next few weeks, I developed a strange routine. In the morning, I was the poor widow everyone knew. I went shopping, chatted with neighbors, and maintained appearances. And in the afternoons, I transformed into a businesswoman. I studied Robert's documents, communicated with Mr. Peterson, and planned my next steps. I learned much more about finances than I ever thought I would need. I realized Robert was much smarter than I had believed. Every investment he made was carefully thought out. For example, the building where Angela lived generated income not just from rent. It was in a rapidly developing area. I also discovered that Edward, Angela's husband, had a lot of debts. He took loans using their apartment as collateral, not knowing he wasn't its true owner. When the banks figured this out, he would face serious problems. On Friday, Mr. Peterson called me with important news. "Mrs. Brooks, we've completed all the paperwork. You now fully control all your assets." I also returned Robert's truck. It turned out the buyer is someone I know, and when I explained the situation, he agreed to return it for a small fee. "Great job, Mr. Peterson. Now I need you to help me with one thing. I want you to send a letter to my daughter." "What letter?" "An eviction notice." Silence hung on the line. "Mrs. Brooks, are you sure you want to do this?" "I'm completely sure. She decided I don't matter in her life. Now she'll find out just how important I really am." "I understand. Do you want me to send it to Europe?" "No. I want you to give it to her when she gets back. I have a feeling it'll be very soon." I wasn't wrong. That same day, Aurora came to me with new news from the neighborhood. "Antonia, did you know Edward has problems with the bank? My son-in-law, who works there, said they're investigating some loans he took out using the apartment as collateral, but it turns out the apartment doesn't belong to him." "Really?" "Yes, and it seems Angela didn't know anything. They say she'll have to return from Europe to sort this out." "How messy." "Yes, and the worst part is that Edward seems to have lied to her about his affairs in Europe. There was no business at all. He just wanted to escape his debts here." Perfect. Everything unfolded as I expected. Angela trusted Edward, sacrificed our relationship for him, and now she's discovering he's not the person he pretended to be. That night, I sat on the porch with a cup of tea, looking at the stars. Robert used to say stars are the souls of people who lived full lives, watching over their families from above. If that's true, he's out there somewhere, observing his plan unfold. "Thank you, my love," I said to the sky. "Thank you for looking out for me, even after your death." The next day, Mr. Peterson called me early. "Mrs. Brooks, I have news for you. Your daughter just returned to the country. She's alone at the airport." "Alone?" "Yes. It seems Edward stayed in Europe. Rumor has it they had a serious fight." "I see. Did you send the letter?" "I'll send it today. She should receive it tomorrow." I hung up and stayed in the kitchen, feeling a mix of nervousness and anticipation. After weeks of silent planning, the moment for my first real step had finally come. Angela would soon find out that her mother wasn't the helpless victim she thought. Angela returned to her apartment on Tuesday evening. I knew this because Aurora, who seemed to have informants all over the neighborhood, came to tell me the next day. "Antonia, your daughter came back last night. I saw her enter with one suitcase, but she looked horrible, pale, with dark circles under her eyes, as if she'd cried the whole flight. Alone, completely alone. She didn't even have keys. She had to ask the manager to let her in with an emergency copy. Interesting. Edward had the keys, which meant he probably decided not to come back. Or maybe Angela found something out about him and ran away. Either way, my daughter was back, and very soon she'd receive my little gift." That same day, Mr. Peterson called me. "Mrs. Brooks, the letter was delivered an hour ago. The butler confirmed your daughter received it personally." Wonderful. How much time did we give her? 30 days to vacate the apartment according to the law. But Mrs. Brooks, are you sure you want to do this? After all, she is your daughter. Mr. Peterson, my daughter kicked me out of my own home in just 2 minutes over the phone. She sold my things without permission. She treated me like garbage. Now she'll learn that there are consequences for her actions. I understand. I just wanted to make sure you considered all the consequences. I've considered everything, Mr. Peterson. Everything. That night, I couldn't sleep. I stayed awake, imagining how Angela would react when she read the letter. At first, she'd be confused, then bewildered, and finally, she'd panic. She'd probably think it was a mistake, that someone was trying to trick her. But when she called to verify, she'd learn everything was perfectly legal. The next day, as if waiting for my call, the phone rang at 8 in the morning. It was Angela, and panic filled her voice. Mom, I need to talk to you urgently. Good morning, dear. How was Europe? Mom, now's not the time for that. I got a very strange letter yesterday. It says I have to vacate the apartment within 30 days. This must be a mistake, right? Do you know anything about it? An eviction notice. How strange. From whom? From a company I've never heard of. Let me find the letter. Robert Investments, Inc. Do you know this company? Robert used his own name for the company. How poetic. No, dear, I haven't heard of it. Are you sure the letter is genuine? That's what I want to find out. Mom, I need your help. I don't know what to do. Edward left me in Europe. He ran off with another woman, and now I'm back to this. I realized Edward had truly abandoned her, probably when the money ran out or when he realized the legal troubles at home were much worse than he thought. Poor Angela. She sacrificed her family for a worthless man. I'm so sorry, dear. Where are you now? I'm at the apartment, but I don't know how long I can stay here. Mom, can I come to you? I need to talk to someone. I don't have anyone else. The irony of the situation was striking. Now that she was without the man she betrayed me for, she remembered she had a mother. Of course, dear. Come whenever you want. I'm on my way. I hung up and looked at myself in the mirror. I needed to look perfect for this performance. I wore my most modest gray dress, pulled my hair into a simple bun, and practiced the expression of a caring but humble mother. When Angela arrived, I was shocked at how bad she looked. She had lost weight, deep dark circles under her eyes, and her expensive clothes looked wrinkled and messy. Her eyes were red from tears. Mom, she said, and for a moment I thought she might hug me, but she paused, as if suddenly remembering how everything had ended between us. Come in, dear. Want some coffee? Yes, please. We sat at the same kitchen table where I had read Robert's documents weeks ago. Angela looked small in that chair, lost like she had been as a child when she came to tell me about her school problems. Mom, I'm really sorry for how I left. I know I treated you badly. That's in the past, dear. No, it's not. I treated you poorly. I said awful things, and now... Her voice broke. Now I have no one. What happened with Edward? He ran off with a 25-year-old waitress in Paris. Turns out there was no business in Europe. It was all a lie. He just wanted to escape his debts here and use the money from selling your house to fund his adventures. All the debts? Yes, Mom. So many debts. It seems he'd been taking loans for years, using the apartment we lived in as collateral. But now, I found out he wasn't the owner. How is that possible? Here was my chance. I don't know, dear. Property issues are very complex. The problem is the banks want me to pay his debts now. They say since we were married, I'm also responsible. And there's this eviction notice. Mom, I don't know what to do. I have no money. I have no job. I have nowhere to live. She started crying, real tears of genuine despair. For a moment, my mother's heart softened. I wanted to hug her, comfort her, tell her everything would be all right. But then I remembered the coldness in her voice when she called me from the doctor's office. How easily she had rejected me. How she spoke to me like I was a burden. Did you talk to a lawyer about... Mom, I can't afford a lawyer. We spent all our money in Europe. Edward took the little we had left when he ran off with that woman. What are you going to do? I don't know. I thought maybe I could stay with you for a while until I find a job and rent a small apartment. This question I had waited for a long time. After she'd kicked me out of my own home, sold my things, and treated me like trash, now she wanted me to save her. She needed the poor widow she created to rescue her from the consequences of her own actions. Of course, dear, this will always be your home. Angela looked at me in surprise, as if she hadn't expected it to be so simple. Really, Mom? After everything that happened? You're my daughter, Angela. That'll never change. She got up and hugged me this time. It was a desperate embrace, like someone drowning clinging to the only thing they could find. I hugged her back, but not with the unconditional love I once had. Now, my embrace held calculation, strategy. Thank you, Mom. I promise I'll find a job soon. I won't be a burden. Don't worry about that now. Rest, recover, and then we'll see what options you have. Angela left that day to pick up some things from her apartment. I stayed in the kitchen, pondering how easy it had been. She came to me just as I planned, broken and hopeless, with no options. And best of all, she suspected nothing. To her, I was still the poor, abandoned mother in need of her compassion. But that was only the first stage of my plan. By living with me, she'd give me the perfect opportunity for the next phase. I intended to let her settle in, feel safe, and believe she found refuge in my home. And then, when she least expected it, I planned to show her the difference between poverty by choice and poverty by consequence. That evening, I called Mr. Peterson. Mr. Peterson, I need you to do one more thing for me. Tell me about Edward's debts. I need to know how much he owes and what legal options I have to separate them from my daughter. It'll take time, but it's doable. Great. And Mr. Peterson, I want you to keep this absolutely confidential. No one should know I'm behind this investigation. Of course, Mrs. Brooks. May I ask what your ultimate plan is? My plan, Mr. Peterson, is very simple. I'm going to save my daughter, but first, she needs to understand what it means to hit rock bottom. When I hung up, I poured myself a glass of wine that Robert had saved for special occasions. It had been a long time since I had such a special opportunity. He had used my name to take out some loans without even notifying me. How is that possible? He forged my signature. When I married him, I gave him some documents so he could manage our joint finances. I never thought he'd use them for such purposes. Do you have a way to prove you didn't know? I'm not sure. Everything's so tangled. The banks say that since we were married, I'm responsible for all his debts. And the divorce? I don't even know where Edward is now. He just vanished. His phone is off. He doesn't reply to emails. Nothing. It's like he disappeared. Edward ran away like a rat, leaving Angela to face the consequences alone. In a way, he did me a favor. Now my daughter felt the same betrayal I did when he left me. I'm so sorry, dear. I didn't know it was this bad. I didn't know either, Mom. I thought Edward loved me, that we'd build something meaningful together. But it turned out I was just easy prey for him. Angela started crying again. How could I have been so foolish? How didn't I see who he really was? I was tempted to tell her I saw signs from the beginning, that I tried to warn her, but that would ruin my image of a compassionate mother. Love blinds sometimes, dear. Don't blame yourself. But Mom, I didn't just ruin my life. I destroyed yours too. I treated you horribly. I took your home, your car, your belongings, all for someone who left me at the first opportunity. Now we're both poor women trying to survive because of me. It's in the past, Angela. We'll manage. No, it isn't. We're both in dire straits due to my mistakes. You lost everything your dad left you, while I lost my marriage and future. We're two impoverished women just trying to get by. If only she knew, I thought. At this moment, I have more money than she could imagine. That I own the building she lives in, and could solve all her problems with a single phone call. But it's not time yet. The next day, we went to the bank. Angela was nervous, but hopeful. I kept pretending to be a confused widow who didn't understand finances. The bank employee led us to the safe deposit boxes, verified my identity, and opened box number 247. Inside were jewels, lots of jewels, rings, necklaces, bracelets, earrings. I recognized some as family heirlooms from Robert's side. Others were completely unfamiliar. There was also a letter explaining the origin of each item and its approximate value. Angela gasped. Mom, this must be worth a fortune. You think so? Yes. Look at this emerald in this pearl necklace. Mom, Dad saved treasure here. According to Robert's letter, the jewelry was valued at around $200,000. That's a significant amount, but it's nothing compared to my other assets. It's like finding a few coins under the couch when you have $1 million in the bank. What are we going to do with this, Mom? I don't know, dear. It's family memories. But Mom, we could sell some of these things. With that money, you could buy back your seaside home, and I could pay off some of Edward's debts. That thought again. Even when she found something valuable, Angela's first instinct was to think about how to use it to fix problems created by Edward. She seemed to have learned nothing. Are you sure you want to use your inheritance from Dad to pay off Edward's debts? What choice do I have, Mom? If I don't pay something soon, the banks will take everything I have, and I actually own nothing. Everything was in Edward's name. Think carefully, dear. Once you sell these jewels, you can't get them back. I know, but what else can I do? I can't get a job with these legal issues. No employer would want to hire someone with so many problems. We brought the jewelry home. Angela laid it out on the kitchen table, exploring each piece, figuring out which to sell and which to keep. It hurt to watch her reduce decades of family history to numbers on a spreadsheet. Mom, I think I can get $118,000 for the jewelry, she said one day, counting the cash on the kitchen table. That's less than I expected, but enough to cover the most urgent debts. Are you sure you want to do this? I have no choice. If I don't pay something soon, they'll take everything. Even this house could be at risk if they prove I have any legal ties to the property. How ironic. Angela worried about losing a house I owned while paying off debts of the man who left her, using money from jewels that belonged to the same person who created the wealth that could have saved her. How are you going to decide which debts to pay first? I spoke with a free financial advisor at the bank. She advised prioritizing debts with real collateral because those could impact property or lead to immediate loss. Angela had matured so much in those few weeks. The woman who sold my things without consent was now carefully examining every financial decision. Suffering made her more responsible, but also more vulnerable. That night, while she organized documents about debts on the table, I had just finished a conversation with Mr. Peterson. I now had complete information about Edward's debts. The situation was much worse than I imagined. How bad? He owes over $200,000 to several banks and has debts with private creditors as well. Furthermore, it's concerning that he used forged documents with your daughter's signature to obtain some of these loans. This means Angela is legally liable. It's a complicated situation. If we can prove she didn't know about it, we might free her from part of the debts. However, it will take much time and money. How much does a good lawyer specializing in these cases cost? Probably around $50,000, with no guarantee of success. I understand. And what if she just pays the debts? If she has the money, that would be the quickest solution, but I doubt she has that amount. Mr. Peterson, I want you to prepare all the necessary documents to release my daughter from these debts, but don't tell her about it yet. You're going to pay, Mrs. Brooks. I'll do everything possible to protect my daughter, but this has to be done very carefully. When I hung up, I saw Angela in the living room staring at the jewels with a sad expression. She looked lost, like a child who broke her favorite toy and didn't know how to fix it. What are you thinking, dear? About Dad? About how disappointed he would be to see what I've done with my life? Your father loved you very much, Angela. He would understand. No, Mom. He taught me to be responsible, to value family, not to be selfish. And I did the exact opposite. I left you for a man who turned out to be a liar. I sold our family's memories for money. I destroyed everything he built. For the first time since she returned, I heard genuine regret in her voice. It wasn't just regret over the consequences of her actions, but a true realization that she had done something morally wrong. People make mistakes, dear. What's important is to learn from them. But how can I learn that, Mom? How do I fix the damage I've done? That was the question I had been waiting to answer. Angela was finally ready to face the truth about her actions and their consequences. But the time hasn't come yet to reveal my final card. First, she needed to hit rock bottom. The next few days were crucial for my plan. Angela decided to sell most of her jewelry, keeping only the wedding ring Robert had given me and a small necklace that belonged to her grandmother. I watched her prepare to visit the jewelry stores, checking prices and negotiating with buyers. It was painful to see her reduce decades of family history to commercial transactions, but it was necessary for her to grasp the true weight of her choices. Mom, I got $180,000 for the jewels, she said one afternoon, counting money at the kitchen table. It's less than I expected, but enough to pay off the most urgent debts. Are you sure you want to do this? I have no choice. If I don't pay something soon, they'll take everything. Even this house might be at risk if they prove I have a legal claim to the property. How ironic this situation was. Angela worried about losing the home that belongs to me, paying off the debts of the man who betrayed her, using money from the jewels of the very man who created the fortune that could have saved her. And how are you going to decide which debts to pay first? I spoke with a free financial advisor at the bank. She advised me to pay off debts secured by real collateral first, as those can affect the property or lead to immediate seizure. Angela had matured so much over the past few weeks. The woman who once sold my things without consulting me was now carefully considering every financial decision. The suffering made her more responsible, yet also more vulnerable. That night, as she organized the debt documents on the table, I received a call from Mr. Peterson. Mrs. Brooks, I have important news. We managed to find Edward. Where is he? In Paris, just as your daughter suspected. But here's the interesting part. He's trying to obtain French citizenship through a sham marriage with that young woman your daughter mentioned. A sham marriage? Yes. It seems this girl needs documents, and he needs a way to stay in Europe without the threat of deportation. But most importantly, we found evidence that he deliberately forged your daughter's documents to leave the country. This means Angela could avoid the debts. With this evidence, we can prove fraud and coercion. Your daughter won't owe anything for what Edward did behind her back. This was perfect. I had a way to legally save Angela from all her debts without her knowing I had the funds to do it. Mr. Peterson, I want you to initiate the legal process immediately. Don't tell my daughter anything yet. I want it all wrapped up before I inform her. I don't want to give her false hope. Understood. It'll take about 3 weeks, maybe a month. Great. When I hung up, Angela looked at me with curiosity. Who was that, Mom? A woman who was asking about Mrs. Davis, our neighbor. She dialed the wrong number. Lying became easy. Each day, I felt more comfortable in this double life. On one side, I was a poor, abandoned mother, as Angela saw me. On the other, I was a wealthy woman, silently providing for my daughter's rescue and education. Over the next 2 weeks, I watched Angela face decisions she hadn't considered before. How to save money on food, how to negotiate with creditors, how to look for a job with a ruined credit history. It was cruel but necessary training. One evening, returning home with swollen legs and a tired face, she said to me, I had 3 interviews today. At 2 of them, they said they couldn't hire me due to pending legal issues. The 3rd company offered me part-time office cleaning at night. Are you going to take it? I have no choice. The pay's low, but it's better than nothing, and I can work nights to look for something better during the day. Seeing my daughter, who had lived a comfortable life for over 40 years, willing to clean offices at night, broke my heart. But I also felt pride. She was finally confronting reality, not expecting someone else to fix her problems. Are you sure you can handle that physical work? I'll have to learn. I can't keep being a burden to you, Mom. It's enough that you let me live here rent-free. This is your home, Angela. No, Mom. This is your house, and I'm here because of your kindness, but I won't take advantage of it forever. One night, when Angela was on her first shift, Aurora visited us. She sat with me in the kitchen, drank tea, and looked at the family photos on the walls. Antonia, I need to ask you something. Did you know Angela would return under such conditions? What do you mean? When she left, she seemed so confident, even arrogant. She talked about her wonderful life in Europe, how successful Edward was. And now she's back, completely broken, working as a cleaner, living with you again. Life can be unpredictable. Aurora, yes, but there's something else. I've been watching Angela in recent days, and she looks different. Not just sad, but humbled, as if she's learned something important. Aurora had always been very perceptive. What do you think she realized? I think she's understood the value of what she once took for granted, like having a mother who loves her unconditionally. Maybe. Aurora, can I tell you something? When Angela left and spoke poorly of you, many of us thought you'd never forgive her. But here you are, caring for her again, providing her a roof over her head when she has nowhere else to turn. She's my daughter, Aurora. Yes, but not every mother would act this way, especially after being hurt so deeply. If Aurora only knew the whole truth, that I could solve all of Angela's problems but chose to let her suffer a bit to learn her lesson. Do you think I'm doing the right thing? I think you're doing what a good mother should do, but I also believe Angela needs to fully realize what she lost when she left you. How do you mean? I think she needs to understand that you're not just a mother who swoops in to save her in tough times, but a woman who built a stable life over 45 years. She needs to respect you, not just depend on you. Aurora hit the nail on the head. This was exactly what I planned. I didn't want Angela to come back to me out of desperation. I wanted her to return from genuine respect and mature love. And do you think that can happen? I think it's already happening. I've seen her in recent days, Antonia. The way she talks to you now is completely different. She's no longer the daughter who gives you orders or sees you as a burden. Now she's an adult woman, sincerely grateful to have a mother like you." That night when Angela came home from work, I noticed she looked tired, but with a new sense of pride. She earned those few dollars through hard work, and it mattered to her. "How was your first day?" "It was tough, but not as bad as I thought." The other women who worked there really helped me. One of them, Mrs. Johnson, taught me techniques to clean more efficiently. "Mrs. Johnson?" "Yes. She's 60 and has been a cleaner for 20 years. She said she started when her husband left her with 3 small kids. She says it's not the job she dreamed of, but it gave her independence and dignity. She sounds like a wise woman." "She is." She said something that made me think. She noted that there are 2 types of people in this job: those who are there because they never had opportunities, and those who are there because they squandered their chances. She asked me which group I belonged to. And what did you tell her? I told her the truth. I had every opportunity in the world: a loving family, a stable home, an inheritance, and I blew it by following a worthless man. And what did she say? She laughed and said, "Well, dear, at least you know why you're here. That gives you an advantage over most people." Angela poured herself a glass of water and sat down with me at the table. "Mom, I want you to know one thing. These last few weeks have been the hardest of my life, but also the most important. Why? Because I finally understood what truly matters. It's not money. It's not living in the most luxurious apartment. It's not impressing people. It's having people who genuinely care about you, who support you when everything falls apart." "Angela, wait. Let me finish. You have every right to hate me for what I did. I left you at the hardest moment. I took everything your father left you. I treated you like you were just a burden. And now I'm back, expecting you to forgive me and take care of me. I've already forgiven you, dear, but I can't forgive myself, and I won't until I prove that I've truly changed, that I've learned lessons from my mistakes." The next morning, Mr. Peterson called me. "Mrs. Brooks, I have great news. The legal process is almost complete. We can free your daughter from Edward's debts. The time has come." After weeks of watching Angela struggle, work, and reflect on her mistakes, the moment finally arrived to show her she was never alone, that someone always cared for her in silence. "Mr. Peterson, I want you to arrange a meeting. It's time for my daughter to learn the whole truth." Mr. Peterson scheduled a meeting for Friday morning at his office. I told Angela I had an appointment with a lawyer who could help her with her legal issues but didn't explain the details. She agreed to come, although she was worried about the consultation costs. "Mom, I don't have money to pay a lawyer. I can barely cover basic expenses." "Don't worry about that right now, dear. Let's just listen to what he has to say." We arrived at Mr. Peterson's office on time. Angela wore her best clothes, which looked quite big on her now. She was nervous, fidgeting with her hands, expecting another piece of bad news in her endless list of problems. Mr. Peterson greeted us with his usual professional smile. "Mrs. Brooks, Miss Brooks, thank you for coming." "Thank you for seeing us," Angela replied. "Although I must warn you that my financial situation is very complicated, and I probably won't be able to pay high fees." "That's exactly what we'll talk about," Mr. Peterson said, exchanging a glance with me. "But first, I need you to review these documents." He handed Angela a thick folder. She opened it and began to read, her expression gradually changing from confusion to surprise. "I don't understand. These documents say that Edward forged my signature, that there's proof of fraud, and that I'm not responsible for the debts." "That's right. We've been investigating your case for the past few weeks. We found enough evidence to confirm you were a victim of identity theft." "But how is that possible? Who paid for this investigation? I don't have money for that. Mr. Peterson looked at me. This was my moment. Angela, I need to tell you something. What, Mom? I took a deep breath. After weeks of pretending, I was finally ready to reveal the truth. Your father left me more than you thought. Much more. What do you mean, Mr. Peterson? Show her the other documents. Mr. Peterson pulled out a second folder and handed it to Angela. This time, the documents contained deeds to properties, bank statements, investment certificates, all the wealth Robert secretly accumulated. Angela read in silence for several minutes. Her face went through a whole range of emotions: confusion, disbelief, shock, and finally, realization. Mom, it says here that you own the building where I lived. Yes, and that you have other properties, bank accounts, investments? Yes. That means when I sold the beach house, it was my house, and the sale was fraudulent. I've already reclaimed it. Angela stared at the papers, trying to comprehend the information. How long did you know this? From the day you called me from the doctor's office, you knew everything when I returned from Europe asking for help? Yes. You knew you could solve all my problems while watching me cry every night? Yes. A long, tense silence followed. Angela closed the folders and looked, right in my eyes. Why, Mom? Why did you let me suffer when you could have helped? I waited weeks for that answer, because you needed to learn something you couldn't learn any other way. Learn what? You had to comprehend the value of what you lost, the value of family, respect, responsibility. When you left me, you took not only money, you took dignity, you took love, you took trust. Angela started crying, but these weren't tears of self-pity like before. These were tears of deep understanding. I left you when you needed me the most. Yes, I treated you terribly. Yes, and you still saved me. Yes, but not how you expected. I didn't save you by giving you money to keep making the same mistakes. I saved you by allowing you to hit rock bottom so you could learn to save yourself. Mr. Peterson gently interjected. Miss Brooks, your mother covered all legal expenses to free you from Edward's debts. She also reclaimed all property that was fraudulently sold. You have no legal troubles now. And what about the job I found? You can quit if you want, I said. But I hope you won't. Why? Because this job teaches you what you never learned when everything was easy. It teaches you the value of your own efforts, the dignity of honest work, the importance of appreciating every dollar you earn. Angela wiped her tears and looked at me with an expression I hadn't seen in years. It wasn't a daughter's look needing a mother. It was an adult woman's look respecting another woman. Will you forgive me, Mom? I already have. A long time ago, dear. The question is, can you forgive yourself? I don't know if I can. I've done unforgivable things. People make mistakes, Angela. What matters is what we do after realizing our errors. Mr. Peterson left us alone in his office for a few minutes. Angela and I sat in silence, processing everything that had happened. Mom, I want you to know something. Even if you didn't have that money, even if you were truly that poor widow I thought, I'd still have learned this lesson. What lesson? That nothing is more valuable than having someone who loves you unconditionally. The past few weeks, the only thing that kept me sane was knowing I had a home with you. That despite all my shattered dreams, you're still my mother. That'll never change, Angela. I know, but I also understand I can't take that love for granted anymore. I need to earn it every day with respect, gratitude, actions, not just words. We left Mr. Peterson's office with an entirely new relationship. We were no longer just mother and daughter, bound by blood and habits. We became two grown women choosing each other after going through the toughest trial. The following weeks focused on recovery, but not how Angela expected. Now that she knew I had enough funds to solve all her problems, she still chose to keep her night cleaning job. "Mom, I need to finish what I started," she said one day as she got ready for work. "I can't just return to a comfortable life as if nothing happened." "Are you sure? You don't have to punish yourself forever. This isn't punishment. It's a way to remember who I was and who I want to be now." I watched her put on her work uniform. It seemed unimaginable a few months ago when she lived in a luxury apartment with Edward, but there was something different in her posture and movements. She wasn't that broken woman who came to me in tears. She became someone who found dignity in honest work. That day, Aurora came to see me, as she did every few days since Angela returned. "Antonia, strange rumors are circulating around the neighborhood." "What rumors?" "They say you're not as poor as everyone thought. Someone saw Angela leaving a very elegant law office downtown, and then she paid off all her debts at the bank." "People talk a lot, Aurora." "Yes, but they're also saying you got your seaside home back and somehow resolved all of Angela's legal issues. That costs a lot of money." "Antonia." Aurora knew me well enough not to take long to guess. "What exactly do you want to know?" "I want to know if it's true that my 40-year-old friend deceived me about her situation." I poured myself a cup of tea and sat across from her. It was time to be honest with someone else. Robert left me more than anyone knew. Aurora knew this much better. How much more? Enough that Angela and I would never worry about money. Aurora paused for a moment, digesting the information. "And why did you pretend to be poor all these months?" "Because I needed Angela to learn a lesson she couldn't grasp otherwise." I told her the whole story. Angela's harsh phone call, my plan for quiet revenge, weeks of watching her hit rock bottom, and finally, the revelation in Mr. Peterson's office. "Antonia, it's both brilliant and terrible." "Terrible. Yes, because you let your daughter suffer when you could have helped her right away. But also brilliant, because I understand why you did it." "Do you really?" "Yes." Angela needed to realize the value of what she lost. If you'd just given her money to solve her problems, she would have thought someone would always bail her out from the consequences of her poor choices. Exactly. But Antonia, didn't it hurt to see her suffer? Every day. Every night I saw her cry. Every morning I watched her go to work, tired and broken. But I knew if I helped her too soon, she wouldn't fully understand the lesson. And do you think she learned it? See for yourself. Angela knows she now has access to enough resources to live comfortably, but she chose to keep her job. She realizes she could move to a better place, but decided to stay here with me. She understands she doesn't need to worry about debts, but she uses her savings to help other women in similar situations. She assists other women. Yes, she's made friends with the ladies she works with and uses part of her cleaning earnings to help a colleague who's struggling to pay for her son's daycare. Aurora smiled. This isn't the Angela who left for Europe. No, she's different. This Angela understands that money is a tool, not a goal. She knows dignity comes from work and respect, not from material wealth. That night, when Angela returned from work, she found me reading in the living room. Mom, I need to tell you something. Mrs. Johnson asked me today if I was the daughter of a wealthy lady from the north side of town. What did you tell her? I said yes, that you have enough money so I don't have to work. And do you know what she asked me next? What did she ask? Why I'm still working. So I explained that I need to prove to myself that I can stand on my own 2 feet. And what did she say? She laughed and said, "Dear, that's the difference between real wealth and how it seems. Your mom taught you how to be truly rich." Mrs. Johnson is very wise. She helped me realize something important. It's not about how much money you have, but how you use it and how you relate to it. Angela sat next to me on the couch. "Mom, I've made a decision. I'm staying here with you, but not as a daughter returning to her parents. I want to be here as an adult woman who chooses to share her life with her mother." "What's the difference?" "The difference is that I will pay my share of the expenses. I'll help with household costs and view our relationship as a partnership between two independent women who love and respect each other." "Angela, you don't have to." "Yes, I do. Mom, I want our relationship to change. I used to be a daughter who took your love and care for granted. Now I want to be an adult woman who values and cares for the most important connection in her life." "And what about your job?" "I'll keep working, but not necessarily cleaning offices. I want to go back to school. I want to prepare for something more meaningful in life, but I'll do it gradually, seizing every opportunity." "Do you know what you want to study?" "Yes, I want to study social work. These past few weeks showed me how many people go through tough times without support. I want to use the available resources to help other women who face what I went through." It was wonderful. Angela not only learned to value what she has, but also found a way to use her experience for good. "And what about Edward?" "Mr. Peterson said he was arrested in France for a sham marriage. He'll be deported soon, but honestly, Mom, I don't care anymore. That part of my life is over." "Don't you feel any resentment?" "No. Edward did me a favor, not even realizing it. If he hadn't betrayed and left me, I'd never have hit rock bottom. And if I hadn't hit rock bottom, I'd never have learned to truly appreciate what I have." That night, for the first time in months, I went to bed feeling completely at peace. My plan worked perfectly. Angela not only learned the necessary lessons, but also emerged from this experience stronger, wiser, and kinder. Robert would have been proud of her. 6 months later, our lives found a new balance that neither of us could have dreamed of. Angela graduated with honors in social work, and I decided to use part of my resources to create a fund to help women facing domestic violence and financial dependency. "Mom, I got a letter from the university," Angela said one morning, walking into the kitchen with an envelope in hand. "I've been accepted into graduate school. I start next semester. But Mom, I want you to know I'll pay for it with my savings. I've saved money from my job at City Hall. The pay isn't high, but I've learned to live with the essentials and appreciate every dollar I earn." "Are you sure? We can easily afford graduate school." "I know, but I need to do this on my own. It's part of who I've become." That day, after lunch, Aurora came to visit us, as she had every Friday for the past few months. She became our confidant, keenly observing our transformation. "Antonia, I have to confess," she said, pouring herself a second cup of tea. "At first, I thought you were very harsh with Angela. And what do you think now?" "Now I think you're the wisest mother I've ever known. Look at your daughter. Really, look at her." It was true. Angela, sitting in the living room preparing for exams, was completely different from the one who left for Europe months ago. This Angela possessed a calmness and confidence based on her achievements, not material possessions. "Did you know I saw Angela at the store yesterday buying vegetables for the family she helps through her work?" She didn't tell me. And when I asked why she's using her own money instead of the government's budget, she said some things can't be measured in official reports. That night, Angela and I had dinner on the porch, which had become our tradition. It was our time to discuss the day, plan for the future, and simply enjoy each other's company. "Mom, I received a very strange letter today," she said, chopping salad. "From whom? From Edward?" My muscles tensed. "Edward? He wrote to you? How? From prison in France. It seems he got a 2-year sentence for marriage fraud. In the letter, he says he regrets what he did and wants to apologize. And how do you feel about that? Honestly, I don't feel anything. No anger, no sadness, no desire for revenge. It's as if that part of my life happened decades ago, not months. Are you going to reply? No, not because I hate him, but because there's nothing to say. That Angela who married him no longer exists. This Angela has nothing to do with him. I was struck by the maturity in her voice. The woman sitting opposite me, she found inner strength after hitting rock bottom and managing to rise on her own. You know what all this taught me, Mom? True love isn't about telling you what you want to hear. True love teaches you what you need to know, even when it hurts. It's a tough lesson, but it's necessary. Edward told me what I wanted to hear. He made me feel special. He convinced me I deserved a life of luxury without effort. You taught me that true wealth comes from hard work, respect, and genuine relationships. That night, when Angela went to her room to study, I sat alone on the porch, gazing at the stars and thinking about Robert. I promised him I'd take care of our daughter, and I finally felt I fulfilled that promise correctly. I didn't care for her just by giving her money when she needed it. I cared by teaching her to take care of herself. I didn't save her by solving her problems. I saved her by letting her learn to solve them herself. The next day was Sunday, and we were set to visit the beach house together for the first time since I got it back. Angela didn't want to go at first, saying she needed time to process everything that happened. "Are you ready?" I asked as we got in the car. "I think so." The drive was silent but comfortable. When we arrived, Angela paused in the car, staring at the house where we spent so many family summer vacations. "It looks exactly the same," she finally said. "Some things stay the same, while others change." I'm not the person who sold this house anymore. We walked inside. The house was clean and tidy, just as Robert and I kept it all those years. Angela wandered through each room, touching the furniture and examining family photos on the walls. "Mom, I want to apologize." "You already did, dear." "No, I want to apologize for this house, not just for selling it, but for reducing all our family memories to a commercial transaction." "That's forgiven." This house symbolizes 40 years of family summer vacations, birthdays, and Christmases. Dad built this porch with his own hands. You planted that garden. I learned to swim on this beach, and I turned all this into money to finance the adventure of a worthless man. She sat on the couch where Robert read on Sundays. "You know what saddens me the most? When I sold it, I didn't feel anything. It was just another property. Now, being here again, I feel Dad in every corner. I hear his laughter, smell his morning coffee, see his glasses on the table. He's here, Angela. He's always been here." "I know, and I also know he's proud of how you handled all this." We spent the whole day in the house, cooking together, cleaning, and fixing little details. It felt like a ritual of reunion, not just with the place, but with the values it represented. As the sun began to set, we sat on the porch Robert built and watched the ocean. "Mom, I have a proposal." "What is it?" "I want us to turn this house into a temporary shelter for women leaving domestic violence situations, a place where they can stay while rebuilding their lives." It was the perfect proposal. Robert would have loved the idea that his beach house would help other families. "I think that's a wonderful idea, dear. We can use some of the foundation's resources for its upkeep, and I can oversee the program through my work." "Are you sure you want to make our family sanctuary like this, Mom?" The best sanctuaries are those shared with others. Dad always said a house isn't a real home until it opens its doors to those in need of love. He was right. Robert was always generous in our home, inviting relatives, friends, and neighbors who needed a place to stay. We returned home that night with a new project and entirely renewed relationships. We were no longer a mother and daughter bound by obligation or need. We were two women consciously choosing to build a life together based on love, respect, and a shared purpose. That night, before sleeping, I quietly spoke to Robert. "We made it, my love. Our daughter finally understands what truly matters." For the first time since his death, I felt he answered me. "I always knew this would happen. You both are stronger than you think." Justice came not as revenge, but as learning, not as punishment, but as transformation. And in the end, we both gained something far more valuable than money. We found genuine relationships built on a strong foundation that no future crisis could destroy.